At least in my experience, most people don't care. They don't care about what is delivered. They just care about results. You still love what you're doing because you're finding solutions. You're growing. Your techniques are evolving. Cool things get better, and that probably means taking on little things that you probably want. And that's just the nature of the beast right now.
Welcome everybody to the episode of Voices of the Industry. Today we got a special guest with us. We have an urban legend. It was myth, his compositing skills and prowess when it comes to After Effects. People didn't think he was real, man. They thought he was like Batman or something, like a boogeyman. But no, man, he's the real deal. He got him right here with us. We got Mr. Lucas with us. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you spending some time with us today to hash it out, man. I know it's been a minute since we had a last conversation, but I wanted the people to be familiar with this amazing compositor that I had the pleasure of working with at a few different studios. Just like Marvin, we'd be watching each other's back, hooking us up with, if we get in one place, he also swings by like Spider-Man and says, yo, man, I got you. Come over here and let's work on this project together. So
yeah, man, that's how things get done.
Yeah, man, most definitely. So with every podcast, we like to get into work in the industry, work in the visual arts medium, and something that some people would urge you not to get into. It's not always a safe bet working in the arts, but it's a little bit different working in visual effects. So I just wanted to get a breakdown of what made you want to get into visual effects.
Oh, man. I would say unknowingly when I watched Terminator 2. I was just a young kid. I saw that movie. I think it was a phenomenon when it came out, and just how were those things done? All that stuff, just eye candy. At the time, I actually wanted to do animation, like Disney animation. And fast forward, started college, and it was just one of those things where I quickly found out that it was just not going to be possible because you have to haul all this material, all this weight, paper, and on top of that, you have other classes. So I was also taking sculpture. So I was hauling my sculpture around with me. I didn't drive. I was taking the bus, taking the trains. It became clear that it was just going to be a difficult road to pursue. And around that time, that's when I was taking After Effects. So I just went down that road, and here I am now.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, T2, that film was legendary, bro. Still to this day, you sit down and you watch those visual effects, those amazing special effects, the practical stuff, how everything came together, like the revolutionary breakthroughs with that liquid metal Terminator coming for John Connor, It's epic, man. It's a classic. Like those films to this day, I think still inspire people who look at them. Just look at the new Mortal Kombat game, man. They're bringing back the T-1000 and people are just losing their minds. Like, yes, classic character. And yeah, man, animation. I had a similar thing too, bro. I also wanted to do animation at first, growing up looking at Pixar, classic Disney animation, and then the Pixar stuff, thinking, yo, man, I kind of want to get into that, But then getting more into it, can't deny the fact that there's those classic films that we saw, and you're like, yo, I kind of want to be part of that movie magic. There's something about making real something that just would be in someone's imagination, and to see that jump from the page to now live action, it's just something that I think we all want to really be part of. Yeah, man. So just give us a brief history of like, did you start out with an internship or did you work at a small studio? Like, how did you come up in the industry?
As soon as I got out of school, the Bachelor of Science in Media Arts and Animation, and first gig I got was at a trailer house. And, I was only there for a couple months, but it gave me a taste of the industry and, how you got to be on your toes. You got to learn quick, trial by fire. That's how things are. People can teach you in school, give you scenarios, but there's nothing like the real world. So, I was in there for a couple months and it just didn't, first job, professional job, didn't really work out for me. So I was forced to, just look around, and I found a place down by Santa Monica, and they specialized more into like IMAX stuff and National Geographic projects. So I would say that's where I got my experience, more or less. I had taken rotoscoping in school, but at this place, that's where I learned the ins and outs of just how rotoscope works, like how to do it right. And, I got my name on the IMAX screen, like on the credits. And like, that was a big dream of mine, just to see my name on the credits. And after that, it was just whatever came my way, project wise. I didn't really get anything credit wise on the screen again until, a couple years after, but it's just organically, moving up the industry, just experiencing different branches of it, but everything's still tied to After Effects, like how to use After Effects to find solutions to problems that are non-existent. They're just problems that you're going to fix for a couple seconds on the screen and then that's it. But anyways, just moving up, you really have no control over that. I'll say you can't choose to work on dream projects. Those kind of just come your way through networking. So yeah, I would say that's kind of how it happened. Eventually, you meet people and these people are working on projects and then you get brought on. And that's more or less what happened to me.
Nice, man. No, I love that. Trial by fire. The amount of situations we got in where we were working long, crazy hours. When you mentioned problem solving, that's what I thought of, man. When we first met,
Mm-hmm.
I remember you were working on a project and I was asked to help you out. And you were very specific, man. Probably one of the most funny interactions I had where you're like, all right, man, this is my process. This is how you do it. These are the steps. I need you. Are you listening right now? Are you following? I need you to do exactly what I'm about to ask you. And there'll be no problems, no issues. Just step by step, just do it. And I did. And then you gave me this look. I'm like, oh, wow. This man knows how to follow directions. Who is this guy? I need to keep working with this guy because he actually does what he's supposed to do. And since then, we kept working on different projects together at different studios. And it was just that whole thing of we got to get cranky and we got to make sure we're on the same page and we get along and we're able to problem solve, man. I remember that would be something you mentioned to me also. It's like you were working on something and you were trying to figure out a better way of how to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember coming into work the next day and I'm like, yo, Lucas, bro, what happened? It looked like something crazy happened. Like, did someone pass away? It looks like you got no sleep. And he's like, Mike, I was up like all night trying to figure out a better way of doing what I was working on yesterday. I'm like, bro, you crazy.
Yeah, man.
But at the same time, it's mad respect because you always had that, I would say like perfectionist necessarily, but you always felt like there's a right and a wrong way to do things. And you always prefer to go about doing things the right way. You know what I mean? As much as people may try to rush us, and there were plenty of situations where they were trying to rush us. Who cares? Just do it and get it out the door. And you were like, no, somebody is going to be just like me. Someone's going to be watching this home on Blu-ray one day or on Netflix. And this person's going to pause on a frame. And if something don't look right on that frame, we got issues.
Yeah, that's the mentality, man. It was a repetitive process. And, if you're cutting corners, 100% of the time, it's just going to come back to you. You're going to have to redo it and it's not going to be fun. And, if you love what you do, it doesn't matter, how bad it is. You still love what you're doing because you're finding solutions, you're growing, your techniques are evolving, all that stuff. But you just rush through things. It just becomes a daunting task and it doesn't become fun. You'll start hating what you're doing. So, that's what you and I were working on. It was just one of those things where it was a repetitive process and I didn't want to create extra work for us. And I didn't want it to come to a point where I can't do it. Mike, here you go, do something, fix it. Or I just don't want to deal with it. And it's not about that. I was, I guess you would say, the lead on it. And I just didn't want to push my problem onto you. So finding solutions to these things and was the better deal. You're only going to grow as an artist. We achieved and we finished strong, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I think that's why it comes to that whole thing of like respecting the craft. And also, I always tell people too, sometimes like you don't really get the pressure or the sense of ownership that we get in what we do. Because I worked with someone before where he called his supervisor over and it's like, hey, I want you to check this out. And the supervisor was like, oh, that's good enough. Send it out. And he was like, yo, wait, I was just asking for direction. I just want to get some feedback. But he was working on a TV show and they only put budget on specific shots. So if it's something that's quick, that's going to go by fast, you're not going to notice it. If it's good enough, just let it fly. And if there were like more expensive shots, like if you actually for a TV show had a CG character for a TV show, that's going to get more budget and attention because a lot of people are going to look for mistakes in that. And you only have so much time to dedicate on a TV show to get things done. And yeah, dude, I never saw someone so broken when he told me that story of like, I just wanted direction, man. I wanted feedback. I want to know if I was on the correct path. And he just said, push it out. And he's like, now I'm questioning it. Now I have all these doubts and uncertainty of like, how's that really going to look and be received by the public? Because I didn't get time to, to really get it to where I thought it should go. Yeah, man, because I know we got to work on different kind of projects. We met working on commercials first, and that's a whole different lane, commercials versus TV versus film. So I don't know if you want to give any thoughts on working on different types of projects.
Well, they are different and, they are treated differently. I think, at least in my experience, most people don't care. They don't care about what is delivered. They just care about results. Just push it out. And, just going back to what I said previously, if you don't care about what you're doing, you're just going to create mistakes along the way. And you're just going to, in turn, it's going to come back. It's going to come back to you. You're going to create bad habits and you're just going to have to redo the work. But, going back to your question, some people don't care, some people do. And, just the mentality from different places, this really put it into perspective for me. This producer, she once told me, actually, she said it a bunch of times, but her thing was, we're not doing heart surgery here. There's only a movie. And she cares for the product, that we're working on and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, she was right. This is not heart surgery. It's just a movie. So keep it lighthearted. And then there's also the other extreme where people just, they let all that get in the way and get the best of themselves and just let it, I don't know, man, turn you into something else. They just start acting maybe too aggressive towards you when you're giving all that you can to finish this work. And a lot of times it's not something that you would proudly on your shoulder, nothing like that. So keeping it lighthearted, I think, is probably the best way.
Mm-hmm. No, man, especially when working wild hours. I remember we were on one project where it was this guy's first experience working in post-production.
Yeah.
Remember, he was used to working on set. He was used to the production side, which is still also long hours. I mean, I think he told us he was working like 14, 16-hour days. So he's used to being up and being present and getting it done for long periods of time. But it was different when he was sitting with us in that one room where there was no lights.
Not the screen, yeah.
There's a light from the screen, right? Where it's working in darkness almost. And we had to do those same amount of hours and turn things out. And yeah, within a week or two, he was starting to get a little grumpy, a little agitated. And our response to that was, yo, man, we're going to keep it light. We're going to have fun. We're going to have some nice little late night wild conversations about whatever, just to kind of vent. You build a rapport. You kind of get each other to loosen up and just to be like, we're in this together. We're working hard, but we all care, as you mentioned, about the end product being good. As much as possible, we're going to give whatever we can of ourselves to come through. Because, we want to enjoy the work that we're producing, and we want people who receive it to look at it in a positive light and enjoy it. We all want to have a good experience. And even if it's difficult at the time, we try to joke around. We try to make sure that it's clear that we have each other's backs and we're going to get through it. We're going to get to the finish line, and then well, I don't drink, but we could hang out and you can have a drink.
Yeah, I could drink.
But, yeah, man, that was an interesting experience. But like you said, you always got to see it's a situation. Do you see it half empty or half full? And we choose the latter. We choose to be positive about the experience.
Yeah, I mean, again, staying positive was key because those long hours, day after day and being in a dark room, it's not by choice. It's just you adapt to it. And sometimes, when you have to use your eyes to look at this thing on a loop to figure out, to try and catch, like if you miss something, you need a setting like that. And yeah, on that project, at least from that person's perspective, coming from the field and then being stuck in a completely different scenario, the way he was imagining things would work, well, why can't I just push this button here and, it'll give me motion blur? It's not really how things worked. So, even going down to, explaining the reasons why they don't. I mean, it would work that way, but you would have to, separate everything as a separate layer and then animate it on your own to create that desired effect. But at the end, it worked out. We all branched into our corners and produced the best work that we could. And now it's been 10 years and it's out in the ether. You can watch it anytime you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's crazy how much time just flew by. Did you have any experience having long stints at a studio, or were they always like shorter contracts? in your experience?
It's all been short per project. I mean, I've tried looking to see if there's positions available, but nothing really, man. Everything's just kind of been contracts per project. Oh, we need you for 2 weeks. The longest I had was, maybe 5 months, if that. It's all been short. So it's just kind of, again, when you're in the trenches, meet and, talk to everyone you can and just network. I think that's what, at least what worked for me, just networking. And to this day, I still here and there work with some of these people. And everyone's kind of having it hard right now. So just holding on.
Yeah, man. You gotta be that cat in the poster, bro. Just gotta hang in there.
Yes. Yes, sir. I actually need that poster now. I have plenty of room here in my office, so that would be nice to have.
Oh, nice. He's gonna be a gangster cat, though. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna see like a Zoom call. I'm just gonna see this cat with like shades on. It's gonna have like a little hoodie on. It's gonna have a goatee. It's gonna have like a gold chain. I'm like, yo, man, what's going on, Lucas? He's like, yo, man.
Keeping it gangster, man.
That's what we do, bro. We're here in LA, man. That's how it is. It's just in our blood. It can't be helped. Yeah, man. So you're a compositor, but what's interesting is that you're specialized in After Effects. I just got hit up by someone recently, and he mentioned 3 different compositing packages. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to use all of those. It's because for me, I've always had to pick up something different to keep working. But what's really interesting is that you stuck to your guns and you're like, yo, man, this is the program I use. This is the program that I specialize in. People want to paint that as a negative, but it's dope to be specialized because then people can come to you knowing that you're going to knock it out the park and they don't have to question through the long list of checklists of like, can you do any of these things? And you're like, I do it all in After Effects.
Yeah.
I just think that's dope.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say about it, but other than for people who like to make a commentary on that, like, yo, man, Lucas, he's been grinding in this industry for well over a decade, and he's able to keep working the same program.
Yeah, it's not by choice. Everything comes down to, if it's cost effective, and it just, the amount that I'm paying to maintain the licenses and all that, it just makes more sense to me. After Effects is my bread and butter, and that's not the only thing I do. I use these other programs, in the Adobe family, and, I just try and incorporate everything into After Effects. Even my photography. I used to shoot a lot. I was trigger happy when I was a little younger, but now I'm more selective with, what I do. And like I could do some of the stuff in Photoshop, and I do, but if I'm going to touch it up even more, like say, use all these plugins, it just makes more sense to do it through there. That sort of thing. And how you were saying, like specializing in After Effects. When I was at a studio, most studios, they use Nuke, and Nuke is a big deal. So I'm contracted to do work on this project, but I can't learn Nuke at the same time and still deliver, all the shots that I have to on a daily basis. So, I had to do a little bit of research and just figure out how Nuke was being used on this particular project versus After Effects. And After Effects can do a lot of that stuff. There just wasn't, and I'm sure there still is not a procedural way to go about it, or, just a process, a checklist. So I had to figure out, ways to achieve the same thing that Nuke was doing via After Effects. And I want to say that it was a success. It took a little longer. It took, probably more steps than it should, but it became one of those things where, if you follow these steps, you do these things, you can fix all these problems. And that's one of those scenarios where you just have to find solutions to problems. That's what compositing and all the things that you have to do, like rotoscoping, is still a solution to a problem. Like even the lowest of the lowest procedures that you have to do. And I would think rotoscope is at the lowest. It's still a solution.
Yeah, I think that's one of the dangers we see. I mean, AI is a constant topic that gets brought up every once in a while, that it's always in the back of people's minds of what is that going to do to our industry? What jobs are going to be left as they keep expanding what AI can possibly do? But to your point, that's one of the key components that I think other people I talk with that we come back to is like, but what about your problem solving skills though? It's like you're just typing in a prompt and expecting a solution, but how did you get there? It just takes me back to when I was in school and I had an instructor, really dope guy, Bo Jansen, gosh, shout him out. He would always harp on us. I'm going to show you the bare bones, the long way of going about everything. And then I'm going to show you there's a plugin. there's a way of doing it faster. But gotta know what's going on under the hood
For sure.
so that you can go back and manually fix things. If you see something's not working correctly, you can figure out like what it is, you know, because like if when you take your car in to get fixed at a mechanic, you know, you should have an idea of like, I think it might be this or that, instead of them going around and say like, hey, we got 10 things we want to fix on your car. Like, bro, I bought it for one thing. I know what that is. I just don't have the skill to handle it, but I need you to fix that. And, you know, it's just that ability to assess a problem and to figure out a solution for it. And that's why it's dope that you mentioned that project in Nuke, where you're like, okay, I see what you guys are doing, but I can mirror that and I could do something similar. And I might have to add an extra few steps because it's a different program. You got to do different workarounds, but you can figure that out. Either you glance at their script or they kind of walk you through their steps and then, okay, I know how to mirror those steps in my workflow. And those are reasons why people who are also specialized can maybe charge a slightly higher rate for a given project, because it's like, yo, you give me any task, you wouldn't have to reassign it. I'll be able to figure it out and get it out by the deadline, you know? And at the end of the day, when people go out to hire us, that's what they want to hear. You know, when they bring us for interviews, they may throw out like a quick problem that may arise in a project, and they want to hear you talk through how you would solve that problem. And you just got to do it once. Bam. I thought, gave him a gotcha question. This person had the answer for it. Hey, man, bring him back for this project and bring Lucas back for whatever else, because we can trust in this guy. And, you know, you have someone that they can trust in. Then, you know, if you were to name drop me or name drop Marvin or someone else that we know in our network, they'll be like, okay, no question, no hesitation, bring them into.
Yeah, I do want to add to that. I do want to say that I did reach that point where, you know, exactly how you phrased it, you know, no questions asked. It's like, oh, name dropping, you know, oh, he recommends them. Yeah, bring him in. Like, done and done. You know, nothing beyond that. No, like, oh, you know, we're thinking of maybe someone else. No, the mentality, your work ethic, you know, all that, it allowed me to reach that point. And, you know, unfortunately right now, you know, just how things are, just maybe have to build that up again, but it's not going to be something that's so unreachable because I've reached that point. So there's always room to grow and to become better at what you're doing. And that's what I'm trying to get at right now. But I did want to go back a little bit to your instructor. I totally agree with everything, like at least his teaching method. If I was to teach someone, I would probably approach it the same way. Everyone nowadays, they want the cocktail of the moment. What is going to allow me to get this done faster? I can't, you know, phone apps and all that stuff. It's great. If all you're doing is just posting 15-second videos to get views, good for you. But what if you got hired to do work? Your app stops working. Your plugin stops working. They actually don't have these plugins. So now you're stuck because you're not going to be able to complete your assignment because this little plugin that you relied everything on is not there for you. So knowing how to create whatever it is manually, you know, understanding the whole process, that is key, man. Because plugins, all they do is they save time. And, you know, some of them are great. Like I own a lot of plugins. If I see something, you know, that's going to save me time, for sure. No questions asked. I get it. And, you know, it just stays dormant most of the time until, you know, one day I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I do have it. I'm going to use it now. But again, and like knowing how these plugins work and at least, you know, what the end result of you clicking that button. And once you click this button and it does the magic for you, it's all good and good. But if it's not there, like how can you replicate it and do it yourself?
I think that's great advice for anyone wanting to get into what we do is figure out everything you can with the bare bones software. And then as you pointed out, plugins should only be added in once you're trying to work faster or to achieve a specific look, but you know how to kind of manually achieve that yourself. I think that works a lot if you're doing like commercials where there's a very trendy thing that they're currently doing. Or as you're saying, there's a program I started using when I was clipping things for socials from content we're making. Yeah, I would just use CapCut because that's a very quick and easy. It's constantly updating with the latest transitions, captions. It's using what's current. If you're all about what's current and trendy, that's great for social media content and use a software optimized for that. But if you're going to be doing what we do, working on film, television, or commercial work, You got to be able to problem solve based on what they have in-house, because you're going to go somewhere, they might not have those plugins that you're used to.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to manually do it. And some studios are nice about it. Some of them will actually acquire a plugin for you, but do not think that's going to be the standard. And in some cases, they may feel a certain type of way because they had to spend extra money other than paying your hourly rate in order for you to do the work that they hired you for. So yeah, those are things to keep into account for sure.
Yeah, there's a whole process behind all that too. They have to approve what the cost is. Some studios, they have the money for that and you need it. Other places are more iffy about those sort of things and like, oh, I guess. I mean, they'll do it, but they won't be happy about it. And yeah, man, plugins are your friends, but your better friend is knowing how to achieve those things, those looks, if they did not exist.
Most definitely. Yeah, since we touched briefly on budgeting just there, how conscious are you as an artist working at these different studios about budget constraints? I think that's something that no one really talks about or looks at, but it's like a low key. I find it useful myself to kind of be aware of what ranges they're looking at to pay artists when they bring you on. And overall, for the length of a project, how much can they afford to kind of keep you around?
Not entirely sure. I mean, it's just different in different places. Some places they honor like your rate, based on they've known you, they've worked with you for a while, and it's great. You don't have to worry about that. And then there's other places where they're a little iffy and maybe you're too expensive for them and they lowball you. And it's one of those things where you got to be okay with taking on these projects and, working at these places. And I guess the way I see it is the bottom line is always networking. So you got to start somewhere. And if that's starting slightly lower than you would want to get paid, you just got to take one for the team, I guess. You being your team and, you're always looking out for yourself. But, sometimes it's just part of, you maneuvering around. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But, that's how you meet new people. You work on new projects, things that you probably wouldn't quite reach or ever come into if you didn't take these chances. Some places you can tell they have many artists and they don't have any problem with budget unless it's per project and you are given a set amount of time to complete your task. No, that's different, but that's something that they wouldn't openly share with you. In other places, they would. They make it quite clear.
No, 100%. Yeah, the only reason I want to touch on it is because I think that's something that people may not take into account when they're looking for work as a contractor, where I know you and I have mentioned it more than once before. It's like personally, where we're just like, yo, man, if you got offered a gig and you've gone through a dry spell, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to put what people may feel like as pride to the side and just like, yo, man, work's work. And what's more important, like you mentioned, is to keep building connections and keep spreading your name out there. Usually people are the ones who are going to recommend you. But sometimes, word can get around like, yo, man, this is a really good artist. I kind of heard about this other studio. I didn't talk to him, but heard about him. Should we bring him in? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Networking and staying employed.
Yeah.
It is more important than you feel like you need to be paid this rate wherever you go. That's not really how our industry works, from my experience, from my understanding. You got to be willing to adapt and to make it work. That should be like statements that people put on their desk, make it work. Got to figure it out. I feel like that's a mantra that as a visual effects artist, we wear that on our sleeve, that idea of it's not like everything's going to work perfectly. That's not the world we live in. There's always going to be something that goes wrong, something that should work. Now we got to figure out another solution because that was what we usually do wasn't working for this case. And yeah, just being quick on your feet is how we work. It may be a dry spell, but the moment someone's like, hey, I got something coming up, are you free? Are you down? Maybe you had something planned with your friends or you're going to do something because you had some downtime. You're like, nah, man, we're going to come through and we're going to make it happen.
I want to say I have that mentality. Opportunities, I don't want to say they'll always be coming, but when they do, you got to evaluate it and then, see if it's going to be a good fit. And it's never going to be a good fit if you never say yes. You just have to say yes.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to gauge, these last few years has been pretty rough for a lot of the industry. And something I just kind of like to somewhat touch upon because it is recent, it's current, it's something that's present in our minds, and we don't know when things are going to switch up, right? We're kind of waiting, anticipating when we could go back to finding regular work and continue to be in this career, It's not an easy topic to get into, but yeah, man, how's it been the last few years for you working in the industry?
Well, the industry has changed quite a bit. I have not been as busy, I have kept myself busy. Little projects, here and there, little side hustles through the lens of networking. I have gotten a few nice gigs, but, nothing long term. So, again, just keeping that in mind that like you have to network. I had to step out of, my comfort zone and try my hand at doing things more on the solo side, more music videos, everything low budget, like whatever it is, take it on. You might touch up on skills you haven't used in a long time. And I found myself in those situations. Pay isn't and hasn't been that great, but I got to work and meet new people. And it's just maintaining the hope that things are going to get back. Probably, hopefully things get better and the industry just overflows to the point where you would just be complaining about too much work. I'm looking forward to that. I don't think I would ever complain about too much work, but it would be nice. It's just, being actively pursuing, your bread and butter. And that probably means, taking on little things that you probably wouldn't. And that's just the nature of the beast right now. It's a part of growing.
Yeah, man. I think we'll be coming up on our time. So I just want to see if there's any closing thoughts that you have when it comes to maybe advice you would have, maybe foreseeing that things go back to normal. Any advice you would have for anyone looking to get into the industry, or just some insight, like imparting thoughts you want to give having been in the industry?
Well, anyone that's listening that would want to get in the industry, the one thing I will say is all you young cats right now is you're at a point where anything you want to learn, if you really want to, you can, because there's just a well out there of, tutorials, video. People are just like posting left and right. And I suppose there wouldn't be any excuse for you not to. You would obviously be getting, knowledge. You would obviously be at a better point of, understanding your program of choice. But, just to circle back, you would still need the trial by fire. And, to get to that point, you have to, manage your program and then, throw yourself out there in the wild and then just test your skills, test your mettle and see how far you can get. Probably the biggest thing, again, is networking. So surround yourself with people that know your craft, that do stuff that you would like to do at some point and pick their brains. You can only get better.
No, man, for sure. There's always room for improvement. And don't be afraid of tripping and falling. Just because you make a mistake does not mean that you failed. I think that's some old school advice you can get from us slightly older cats. We're still in our prime, but, we're a little seasoned, as you say. We got a little salt and pepper.
And pepper for sure.
But no, we definitely highly suggest that. Don't be afraid, man. I think a teacher once said, the worst question is the one that was never asked. The fact that, you have all these ideas, but then you're scared of an answer. You're scared of what that could lead to. Just try, put yourself out there, and don't be afraid of making a mistake here and there. The only thing is, did you learn from that mistake? And are you driven to not make the same mistake again? I think those are just basic life skills. As guys who are older, those are some things that we want to impart to others. And on that note, yeah, man, I appreciate you having to sit down with me doing this interview. It's a good talk, bro.
Well, thanks, man. Thank you for considering and, thinking of me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. All right, buddy. Thanks for tuning in and check out the next one.